Hello class, welcome back. So now that we've populated the register page with some markup and put a form on there, it's time to actually connect our client to the backend, to the Apollo server. So let's go and Google Apollo client, and let's go to the documentation, and let's go to get started. And so we need to install the Apollo client and the GraphQL dependencies. So let's copy those, and I'm going to stop the terminal or the dev server and just copy that and let it install. It used to be before, if you've done like the Mung tutorial that I did a while ago, it used to be in Apollo React hooks, but now all the hooks that we can use with mutations and queries, use mutations and stuff like that, all of them have been now matured and imported into the main Apollo client package, so we don't have to worry about that. So alright, so that's installed. Let's go to scroll down a bit, and here it shows us how to set up a server, or like a client rather. So we'll just grab all of this, and let's go back to our app. So inside the client source folder, I'm gonna create inside the source folder, and I'm gonna create a new file, call it Apollo client dot not client, I'll call it provider provider, like so. If I can spell .js. I'll paste that, and so here we just need to change the URI from that to http ://localhost 4000, which is our server, our local server. So leave that as it is. Actually no, we need to have the provider itself, and that works. Where is it? Yeah, it's like this. So you need to import the provider and give it the client that we just instantiated. So let's go back to our app. So we can create it here and just export it. So actually let me close this, and up here we need to import it. So I'll say Apollo provider, and I'm gonna give it an alias of just provider, because I want to use this name and not to confuse ourselves. So here I'll say const, actually not const, export default function, and this will be Apollo provider. This is our custom component. So here we'll say props, and here we'll return a provider, which is the Apollo provider, and we just need to provide it with the client, and here we need to spread the props, because we're gonna get props from the app.js component. Speaking of which, let's go to the app.js, and here we need to import that provider. That's a relative import, so let's put it down here. Actually, let's put it here, because it's not actually a page, so I want to differentiate the two. So I'll say import Apollo provider from the same directory, Apollo provider. I'll show you the directory, not to get confused, it's this one, I just remind you. And so I'll just copy that and wrap everything in it. So do that, and then cut the closing tag and paste it down here. So save everything and see in the terminal, make sure, well actually I stopped this server. One thing I noticed is that each time we make a change in our client directory, our server, the nodemon, is executing again. We can solve this by just running node server, or we can, so let's go to the upper package JSON, the one on the server level. We can stop the server, and we can just, where is it? In the dev script inside of here, we can add the ignore flag. So ignore, and we'll give it the client directory. So now any change that happens inside the client directory will not re-trigger nodemon to watch and re-trigger our server. So, or not node. So if we run again our server, npm run dev, and now if we go inside the client and we save, or like we make any change, it doesn't rebuild our server or rerun our server. But if we go to our resolvers, for example, and save here, it does actually do it. So that's actually some kind of tiny improvement quality of life. So where are we? Okay, so we have the Apollo provider, and how we can test it is we can actually go to the register page and do in fact send the mutation to the server and do register the user. So I'll close these two. We need to import the use mutation hook. So in the documentation, you can go to fetching, mutations and scroll down. So right here, so we need to get both GQL and use mutation. In fact, I'm gonna copy all of this. So copy all of that, go to VS Code, and just go register here. We're in the register page. Paste everything. And of course we need to change this. This is not add to do. This, we're gonna call this register user. And this is just a convention with naming queries and mutations with a uppercase, kind of like a constant naming convention. So this is register user, and the name of the mutation, of course, is register. So let's change this to register, and this takes not a type, so it takes about 4 fields, as you remember. So the username, which is a string, and the email, which is a string, and that's required as well. And the password, a required string, and the confirm password, which is a required string as well. Now, let's copy all of these from here, and here let's paste them. But okay, we need to change these. So I'm just gonna Control D 3 times, and I'll say I'll say $ username. And we need to remove these $ from here, here. What am I doing? Yeah, okay, so this needs to be without a $. So username, email, with a $. And here, the third one is getting a bit confusing. Actually, let me save so that it formats. Oh, it doesn't format. Okay, it's not helping me. Okay, so password, that would be $ password. And the confirm password will be $ confirm password. And we need to get the username, the email, and the created at. So let's save. It still doesn't format. Okay, I'll leave it as it is for now. Okay, let me change the add to do to register. And now if I scroll down, so we need to actually execute it when we submit the register form. So if we go back to the documentation, we see that here we can destructure the method that we need to execute. So I just copied this. Let's go here and just paste that here and change this into register. I'll call this register user to not have like too many like conflicting names. And I'll provide this register user mutation from here into here. And so we get data, but we can also get loading data and error. But there's another pattern that I'm going to use here. So for now, I'm just going to get the loading, and I'm just going to get the loading, and then here for the second argument for user mutation, we can pass some options. So the options here would contain certain functions that execute at certain, they're kind of like life cycle hooks of the mutation. So the first example of this would be the update function, which will take, the first is the cache, which we'll ignore, and then the second will be the results. So let's call this res, and for now let's just console log any results that we get. And the second one that we need to use is on error, which gets an error. And then what we need, let's just console log the error for now. And here, after we prevent the default, after the form is submitted, we just need to call this register user. And actually, let's do it like this. And we need to pass it an object with a key called variables containing those variables. And this is why I named this variables like this, so we don't have to do like an object here and say username is this, blah, blah, blah. We just need to pass the local state variables. That was a bit of a confusing one. All right, so let's run our client. So make sure you're in the client directory and run npm start. Alright, so it says Apollo provider line 13 React must be in scope when using JSX. Let me close the console. Okay, so here we need to import React, my bad. So import React from React. because we're creating a functional component here. So let's go back. All right, another error. So expected $ found email. That would be in the register. And okay, it's right here. So that's why it wasn't formatting, because here we needed the $. There we go. All right, cool. So it bundles everything without any problems. Now let's open the DevTools. I'm gonna close this. Actually, I'm just gonna change this React app name up there, because why not? So in the public, in the index.html, I'm just gonna change this React app into MSGME. I'm not gonna save for now. So here, let's go to the network tab, and if we execute this, we should get some errors back. So let's hit register, and it's always a 200 response from GraphQL, but there we go. So we get errors, and we get an array of errors, because if you remember, let's actually do that here and make it error and execute it. We do get an array of errors, but we always get one error, and then inside of it we get an array, or sorry, an object that contains multiple errors, which we wrote in our server. So what we need to do now is, when we execute and send this form, we need to catch those errors and display them on the form. So the way we do this, if you're not familiar with Bootstrap too much, is the form control inputs. If you add a class to them of is dash invalid, they become red around the sides, and you can add underneath it a invalid feedback which has an error message. But I'm going to take a different approach, which is because I don't like that message underneath, because it changes kind of like the size of the form and it deforms the page. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to change the text of the label into the error and make it red as well. So I think it looks a bit neater. It's just a different approach. You can do both. So here, when we get the errors, we need to store them in a local variable. Actually, we did console log them. So okay, so it console logs just the error into a string. So instead, we can just console log. So inside the error, we're gonna get an array called GraphQL errors, and of course we have only one error, so we can access the first one, so at 0. And then we can access .extensions and .errors, which would be, again, this one right here. So that's the error, the first one, extensions, errors, and we get the errors that we wrote ourselves on the server. So if we console log them, we're going to see them, but I'm going to set them as well into a local variable. So here, I'm going to create another state variable. So I'll say const errors, set errors, and here I'll say use state, and pass it an empty object. And here we'll say if we get any errors, we'll set errors into, I'm just gonna copy this down into here. Now, of course, we need to use these errors once we get them. So actually, let's use the loading as well, so React doesn't complain that we have assigned it a value and not used it. So we can go to the submit button, and we could just make it disabled if we're loading. So we could say disabled and pass it loading, and then we can also actually change the text. So here we'll say loading, so open curly braces loading, and do a ternary. If that's the case, we're going to say loading ... else we're going to say register. All right, so inside of every one of these form groups, like I said, we're going to change the label. So for it to change into red, we need to give it the class of text danger. So here inside of the opening tag, we'll say open curly braces and say, actually we need to say class name. And then inside of that curly braces, and we need to check for errors . So this is the email, we'll check for errors.email, and we do and. So if that's the case, we're going to give it a text danger class. Else it's not going to have any class, which is okay. So let's enter and bring this into a new line. And inside of here, inside of the label, let's cut this, open curly braces, and do the same. So errors.email, actually not the same. So this will be a ternary. Actually, no, this is not a ternary. This will be a, I forgot what this operator is called. If you remember, type it in the comment, because I forgot. This is an operator that checks if this has a value, so it puts this, else if this is null, then it's going to use this instead. So which will show us the error. So let's copy this, and I'm just gonna paste it here, and then instead of this label as well, and instead of this label as well, and we'll change the name. So this will be the username. So let's select that and Control D twice and say username, username, not address as well. I remove the address and do capital U, and here, so this one is the password. So select this, Control D twice and say password, make this a capital P and remove address, and this as well, Control D twice and say confirm password, and this will be capital C, confirm space, lowercase p, password, and remove address. One more thing is we need to set the input itself into invalid, and so let's go back. So the first one here, form control, here we can say class name. By default, these inputs, they have a class name of form control. But what's cool about React Bootstrap is if we give as well another class name here, it will concatenate it and add it to the other one, so we don't have to worry about including form control inside of here. So actually this will be an expression, so curly braces, and here we'll check again for errors.email, and if that's the case, so question mark, and we'll say, what is it? Yeah, is invalid, and copy that. Paste it here, change this to username, paste that here, change that to password, and underneath value here, paste it and change this to confirm. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Confirm password. It's getting late. Alright, so let's save all files. So we save the index.html as well. Let's go back. There we go, and the name of our app changes, but we instantly get is invalid. Okay, so why is that? Oh, okay, my bad. So these, these ones, this should be and, so that should be a condition, and not if this is the case. Not if that's truthy, because that will not be truthy instantly at the beginning. Oh, not this. So change inside of the form control, the class name. When you check for error, do and so change it here, here, and so this one as well, and then change this one as well, and save, and there we go. So we get them initially as not invalid, and if we hit register, there we go. So we get all of our relevant errors and they turn into red. Alright, so if I give an email here, so John, I'm just gonna go back to the MySQL, and I'll delete, I think I've already deleted all the users just to not confuse myself when testing. So I'll delete all the users. Actually, I've already done that. So I'll say john.email or @email.com, and the username is John, password is 1 through 6, and again the password is 1 through 6. So register, you see it changed. That was when disabled and said loading for a second. But we get okay, our mutation didn't execute. All right, let's try again. All right, oh, actually it did execute. I don't know why earlier it didn't execute. Okay, it says the username is already taken for some reason, even though I did. Okay, maybe I did register. Okay, I'm just gonna delete the users, and let's hit register. All right, okay, so it was successful. There we go. We get data, register, and there we get username John, blah blah blah. And if we select star from users, we get John, and was just registered right now. Alright, so of course when we register, and we need to redirect into the login page so the user can log in. Right now, of course, this page needs to be inside of the /register, /register, and the login needs to be /login. So this would be a good time to actually implement React Router. So let's do that. So let's go to our app here, open the terminal. I'm gonna open yet another terminal, cd into the client, run npm install react router DOM, and let that install, close the client, and go here in app.js. Let's import a couple of things from the router. So we need browser router and route and switch from React router DOM. And here, so inside the Apollo provider, let's put a browser router tag, take the closing tag, cut it and put it here. I'm gonna leave the container and I'm gonna put everything inside the container, because even as the page changes, I want the new page to still be inside that container. So I'll remove this register component and I'll add a route. So route path. The first one will be the register, so /register, and this will take a component, and that will be the register component. And while we're at it, let's actually create the other two pages. So inside of the pages, I'll create a new file, login.js. I'll say rfc tab login, and actually let's populate this login page right now. And let's go to the register page, or actually let's just test out the router first. Okay, let's just put a header first, and here let's say login page, and create another page, call it home.js, and do rfc tab. All right, there we go. Third time is the charm. Header 1, and this says home page. All right, in the app.js, let's duplicate this line twice, and let's make this an exact path and give it a slash. Otherwise, it's gonna look at slash and anything after that slash. So we need to give it exact, and this will be the home page. And here we'll say login, and this will be the login page. And it makes sense that the home page will be on the top. And here let's repeat this import twice, and Control D, change this to login, Control D, change this to home, and lift up the home line to the top, separate these for more clarity, and save all files, and this should work. So I'll exit from this one. We get a warning. Okay, yeah, actually I forgot to implement the switch. So here, around all the routes, we'll put switch, cut the closing tag, and put this there. All right, so let's go back to our app. And there we go. So, there we go. All right, so if I go to the home page, we'll get a home page. If I go to /register, all right, there's a problem. All right, I just restarted the development server of the client, and now it's working. I don't know why it wasn't working earlier. So yeah, okay, so login now gives us login, register gives us register, and just slash gives us the home page. All right, so let's go back to the register page. Now we need to redirect after we successfully register. So let's go back to VS Code. I'm just gonna close the MySQL terminal for now. Close the command line, and up here, when we get a successful response from registering, actually we don't need the response itself, so we can omit that as well, do double underscore, and we can simply actually we need to take the props, and here use the history, so say props.history, and we're gonna call the push method, and we're gonna push to /login, which should redirect us to the login. Let's remove this console log, it's kind of redundant right now. Actually, these can be made into one-liners if you want, so you can just do this, and arrow, remove the curly braces, and do the same here for more concise code, and remove the curly brace, and there we go. So now if we register, it's going to redirect us to the login page. So I don't even need to test this, it's going to work for sure. So I'm straight away going to go to the login page and start working on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything inside of the register and paste it into the login, because it's pretty much the same, except we're going to scroll up. So we're going to remove the email input because we use the username to login. And let's keep the password and remove the confirm password form group. And here for the button, it's gonna check for loading, else it's gonna say login instead of register. Let's scroll back up, and here the title of the page should be login, and the on submit should say submit login form. Technically we can call this submit form anyway, but I like to be more explicit. So here, let's copy this, paste it into there, and this needs to change. So we need to use query now, because it's a login is a query, and we need to change this query or this mutation into a query. So this will be called login user, and let's change this into a query called login, and it only takes a username and a password, so remove the other two fields, and this will be login, and this will have a username and a password, and we'll get the username, the email, the created at, and the JWT token, so at token there. So here we'll have the variables, same thing, except without the email and without the confirmed password. We can have errors, so we'll keep that. And this needs to change into login user, and this needs to change to use query. Or actually no, we need to use, this reminded me, we need to use lazy query, because if we go back to the documentation, if we go to queries, the reason why we need to use the other one is use query is executed instantly once a component is loaded, and once the use query function or hook itself is called, because this is only used in pages that know what to fetch. Like for example, if you go to /posts, that page knows it's gonna fetch posts, but in this case the page doesn't know. It doesn't know which user is logging in, so we need to wait until the user hits the submit button, in this case the login button, and then we need to on demand execute that query. And that's why we need to let me search for the word lazy. There we go. So executing queries manually, so this is what we're gonna use instead. So it kind of works the same as a mutation, except it's executing a query. So let's go back to VS Code. So here oh, I'm already importing that, that's strange. All right, so remove this. Well, actually no, because I changed it here and auto imported it. It's playing up. All right, so login user, and I'm gonna get the loading, and we're gonna use lazy query, change this into login user, and so here we don't have access to an update function in the use lazy query. We do have the on error, so we can keep this as it is, and here we'll use something called onCompleted, and this will give us access to, actually we can call it like this because we need more than one line, to the data from the response. And remember, if we log in successfully like so, we get data.login, so we need to access that. And so let's go back here, and we'll say what we need to do is, once we get a successful response, that means we get a token because we already added it to the query. So we need to take that token and store it in local storage on the browser, so we'll have access to it in later requests. So if the user refreshes the whole page, we're gonna have access to it because it's gonna be in local storage, and we will not store it into the state of the app, because that is reset once the app is restarted. So here we're simply going to say local storage.set item, and let's call it token, and we'll give it the value of data. Remember, we're going to get a login object because this is a login mutation. So data.login.token, easy as that. And after we log in, we need to redirect to the home page. So props.history.push and give it /, and here we're taking the props, so that should work. All right. Actually, we need to change this register user here to login user, and let's cross our fingers that everything works without any errors. Let's open the terminal. All right, it compiled without any errors. Cool. Let's go back to our client. Go to the login page. Actually, we need like a link from the register page, so we need to include like some text underneath the register button. So here here under this is the login button, so we can have a small paragraph here that says, so this is the login page, so here we'll say don't have an account. We need to put a link, so we'll use the link. This will have a to attribute or property, and this will go to the /register page, and it will say register, and that should be imported already. No, I didn't import it, so here we'll need to import link from React router DOM, like that. So let me check if that's working. Alright, it does work. So if we click on register there, it takes us to register, but for some reason it's on the same line. We can simply add a line break, so br tab. Ooh, why is that not working? Just br and close the tab or tag, and there we go. So I don't have an account, register, and let's copy this and do the same for the register page. So here underneath this button, we'll paste that. Actually, I forgot to take the line break as well. And here this will say already have an account, then login. Right, to make that capital L, and import the link. So import link from React router DOM. There we go. Cool. So we can browse between them without having to type the URL. So let's actually test everything out. Let's open the console and the DevTools in case we get any error. So let's register a new user. So jane@email.com, and let's actually test out the validation errors. So I'll leave this empty. I'll put 1 through 6, and for the confirm password I'll put 1 through 7. Cool, so we get the validation errors, and everything works the same. I'm gonna put an existing email, 1 through 6, 1 through 6. Cool, the email is taken. If I put Jane, it should be successful. Cool, it's successful, and it takes us to the login page, and here we can actually log in as Jane. So 1 through, actually let's test the wrong password. Oh, alright, so there's something that I forgot. So cannot read property username of undefined. So we're setting the errors. Let's see, actually, so if we log in, right, so if we have the wrong password. Oh, that's interesting. We don't get the errors object. Let's go to our resolvers. And should be, where's the login? Did I pass it? I passed it. Okay, so, right. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So the authentication error only gets a message, but we can't pass it some properties. So we can simply get around that by changing that into a user input error instead. So now if we log in with the wrong password, there we go, we get the errors object, and that should work now. So let's go back to that page. So Jane 1 through 5. There we go, password is incorrect. 1 through 6. Boom, so we're logged in, and if we check in application, go to local storage, localhost 3000. Oh, we have like a JWT apparently, like from some old session, and there's our token just saved right now. Cool, there we go. So that's working, and the next one will be working on the home page, and I will not be as quiet as I was in this video because I will not be recording during nighttime. Alright, so if you've enjoyed this, series, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe and hit the bell button, and put a comment. Say what you like, Actually, I'm gonna release this as soon as possible, so if you suggest something that's cool, I could actually implement it into this application. So other than that, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.